Hi, my name's Bente. I'm the Norse Witch, and today I have a very special guest with me today. I'm talking today to Ísvöld, who is an Icelandic Völva. I am extremely excited to talk to you today. First of all, thank you so much for letting me interview you. I feel like this is a very special experience. So before we actually hop into the questions, would you mind introducing yourself to the audience and maybe give us a little bit of an insight, like, of course, I already told everyone where you're from, but like a little bit of what you do, and maybe if you want to, feel free to share any socials.
Socials? What does that mean?
Like your Instagram handle or anything where people can find you, if you're okay with that. You don't have to do that.
Oh, okay. Well, yes, my name is Ísvöld Ljósbera Sigríðarbur. I'm the child of Sigríðr. And I live here in the southern region of Iceland. My house has the Atlantic Ocean as the backyard. And that is just where I'm very much comfortable and living a relatively slow life, except when there's callings to work. And that is kind of just how I function, that in kind of like this natural rhythm, slow time, and then if some project comes up or something, if I can help somebody or if there's something in the nature I can be assistant of, that's where I will kind of step up and do things according to what needs to be done, and how I can be of support as a Völva in my community. And there is enough work that comes to me and my family that we can just kind of like sit and wait for it. And yeah, I don't know how else I can explain that. I'm also a musician, you know. Being a Völva it is like it is kind of like what is steering kind of like my life, and it influences my life every day. But I also am careful not to make it like my own whole personality and all of me, because I have burnt out from that. So I try to mind my music and my passions and just and socialize without this. It's not a lot, but it's there. And yeah, so I'm currently, you know, it's a dark season in Iceland, and very stormy. So we do a lot of just being inside, reading books, and being creative, if that is for you. And I'm now studying history of Völvur in Iceland at this moment.
Ooh.
Yeah. There was a very good book compiled by a priest that had been studying this, and it was a project he was doing for school, and then it turned into a 40-year process of documenting and writing about our culture here regarding to Völvur. And so it's such a prestige study that I'm studying his studies and in some contact with them. I'm looking forward to talking more to him later. And so that is pretty much it. And I am active on Instagram sometimes, and my, like, maybe it will be written down somewhere, because I read it Tiva rains, and Tiva is just like God, or Tivur like gods, and it's raining. It's like it's drottnar. It's like what rains over you. And we also call Tivur the glow and the light around nature, like the mountains. So if we see like a glow over a mountain, like the ones to see it, we'll call them Tivur. So I keep my Instagram kind of just like based on like my surroundings, and I'm so much alone that I like to share it with other people. So I'm not the only
beautiful witness. I mean, I'm always very happy whenever you post something.
Thank you.
I always feel like you have very important things to say, so I'm always very glad to read and listen.
That is so interesting to me, because I don't feel like any importance or anything like that. It's like usually it's like I'll wake up in the morning with something in my head, I'll post it, and then I don't think about it, and then I'm like, oh shit, you know, like I really just maybe channeled something for a minute, you know. But yeah, I guess we can say it is important. I think anything in regards to nature and humanity and remembering that is important. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love what you share too, and it's just it is a way to connect like to more a global village, I really like it.
Definitely. Yeah. Especially if you do something that niche, then it's really, really cool to just be able to at least connect to other people over the internet that do or like a similar thing.
Yeah, I could never imagine that, because when I was little, like I would be so like I could be alone for a long time. I was maybe 2 weeks in the countryside with my grandparents in nature, and I'm seeing things that I'm like, I just want to tell another human. I just want somebody else to see with me and just go wow with me. And this like the social media and things that when you find where you feel comfortable, it's such a great place to connect and just feel like, oh, thank you for seeing this with me and celebrating this with me. It's really great.
Yeah, that's
The
very
good times
true.
and the bad. I'm very sentimental about the bad times too.
All right. So I guess let us hop into the questions.
Yeah.
I kind of organized the questions a little bit that we have like more general, more definition questions in the beginning, and then we will hop more into your personal practice. Of course, if there's anything that you don't want to or you can't share, because of course maybe there's something that you're not allowed to share, then feel free to say so, and we will just skip to the next question. But like with the first few questions, probably won't be the case. But those are always the questions that I get all the friggin' time. So of course, like the first question is what even is a Völva? When I was asking for my community's questions, maybe 50% of the people were like, what even is a Völva? And the people who knew kind of a little bit in which direction it went were very curious about how being a Völva differs from, for example, someone who would identify themselves as more like a modern witch or something like that.
Exactly. So the first question is, what is a Völva? So we just have let's just talk about a standard explanation. So it's a seer, a seeress or seer, and oracle, and that is like the base of it, and that's the special skill around it. But then besides that, it goes a little bit more beyond where it will be very common that the Völva is also a healer, could have some doctoring capabilities. It can have a Völva can have special connection with spirits, so we work through ceremony to request things, make offerings to get results. So a Völva to us is not just a seer, but also just a communicator between worlds, and then building these mediums in our work, like and through ceremony, and through like a dedicated practice, like basically sitting out or meditation to receive instructions to do things. So we're in this position of constant communication to be able to receive and to be able to then reach out and do something. And the ones that are known very well here in Iceland have all been very community oriented. They have come up in places in life and in this community where they do a great service, like even just being a special teacher or like somebody that gathers people for kind of help. Like one that I know that's not with us anymore. Everybody brought animals to her for healing, and it becomes this very natural thing. And that so you become somebody that like here in Iceland that the community really just look towards as a council, as it like, and we can use all these words like a sage, so something like that. But the like they say, the basis of it, like you're not a Völva without being a seeress also, you have to have that kind of, you kind of like have to have that connection to even like make it through that first part right there, and then everything else kind of like unfolds around it.
It's kind of like without without being a seer or a seeress, you kind of don't really have the access to the other realms to be able to mediate all of the other practices, or
yeah, it's just like how we do it, and just like what kind of channel and we are working with through it. We have indicators here in Iceland that just shows community what you are, and what you become, and you become this to them. And so it's like a Völva can be a witch and it can be a sorceress also and stuff like that, but that's not like the main criteria of it, you know.
Mhm.
A Völva can also be from a Christian, Icelandic Christian Völva is existent also, but
Wow.
and and it's like there is like this channeling of energy entity, something that's very familiar to our community that really just brings it to this point. The community starts calling you that, and then you kind of just go like along with it. And yeah,
That's very interesting, because that would have actually been my next question. Like, I know there are a lot of people, at least on the internet, like around the world, who call themselves Völva. But like, is that actually something that you can just call yourself if you are a seer or a seeress and you maybe do also other things? Or is it something that you're either like born into or just being given the title basically by your community?
yeah, like because so much that is like under our umbrella of workings, you know, it's like a Völva would be like a Swiss Army knife of all these capabilities and that you can access, you know. But it's also just like you're who you are developed as, you know, it becomes the thing, you know. And but it's like for us here, it's like it's kind of cringy if somebody just starts saying, you know, I am a Völva and I'm selling these courses and I'm going to educate you like this and you pay me money for that, you know, like, you know, if you do this in a boastful way, in that way, like, I mean, of course you can. I mean, we descended from Vikings, like, of course we boast, but it's like, you know, but it's like there's a way of doing it that just like, it's like I'm 40 something years old now, and it's not until like now that I can like confidently say that I am this, or like write it in like my bio or something like that, you know.
Mm.
Because I'm like way 10 years some over the bridge of feeling kind of like awkward about it. It's not because you never, because it is such a thing here, you don't self-title yourself this. It's very, very important, you know. And it's something just in the people here, they'll just go like, you know, don't, it's sacred to us, don't do that, you know. So it's either you are or not, and it really is something that just develops with time. It just depends on your connection with community and spirit, and just like how that goes, you know. It's like a big old alchemy of things that have to come together. And it's also reincarnation to us. Like it's a family, it's genetic, and we have this thing that we believe that we can reincarnate in our own families. It's very common to do so here.
Mm-hmm.
So you honor your ancestors like that, and we just know it. That's why we name ourselves after somebody before. It's often that way. So it's like genetic, it's inherited, and like all these things have to come into place, you know, to work it out. And like now that I'm like many generations of people like me ahead of me, it's like it's very natural to kind of like just pick things up from there, and you just have this knowing of how to do things, and the community will recognize that in you.
I really, really love how big the role of community seems to be in the practice of a Völva, that like the community starts calling you a Völva and not the other way around. It's kind of like you don't really exist without the community that you're working in.
It's so mute to even try it, and the community will not come to you if you're off. You know, if there's any way that you're just not in, you're out of service in any way, or you're going through something, people just feel it, you know, they'll leave you alone. And so it is like this, like I think I was often just called a witch, you know, not like people recognize through the Norse mythology, the three Norns that are by the well of source. And we also just use that as a term for a witch here. And so I was just like the little witch, and then I became a bigger witch, and then they called me the little Völva, and then I grew up.
I like the little Völva.
Yeah, it was just like, and then people just started to go like, yeah, this is my friend Ísvöld, she's a Völva, like, or they are a Völva, and they will be like, oh, okay, cool, that's awesome. And then it just kind of like escalated from there. I'm like, okay, so that's what we're leaning into now. So
It seems like I'm a Völva now. Okay.
So we're doing that now. I'm like, obviously there's something going on, but but it's just like when it becomes that point, the title did not matter in that sense. It mattered more to community to have somebody. And the community, it's like, it can come from so many directions. It comes from like the most, I can't talk about the people that come to me, but I'm telling you, like the people you least expected will search out this kind of information and tapping into the knowing that I can access. So a lot of people come to me for the purpose of being a seeress and what I can offer in helping people through the path. I'm not a fortune teller, I help them with the path, and that is something that I do actively as much as I can.
I love that. And I love that that's actually still just something you can actually do, because I feel like that's not something that would work in every country. I feel like in Iceland there's still so much belief in things like that. Like, for example, if I would imagine just trying something like that in Germany, that no, that would not happen.
And my method is not basically like practical. It's like, if I would go to Germany, I might just sit there like I sit here. I might be just waiting for things to happen. Like, I don't know. But and so we do have the perfect conditions to continue this way.
Yeah.
And but I've traveled, and like when in a way that Iceland has become more global and it's become touristy, it became popular. This happened like the other day to us. We're very isolated to this point, and we're like, okay, what's happening? And then I met somebody that from another tradition that wanted me to travel with them, and then I really don't know how to like clock out of like putting some kind of a mask on that fits another society. I just kind of carry it with me, and there's people around me, like in France and other countries, they see that I'm receiving the same approaches I would in Iceland. People just automatically come, or people just seek out to it. Like, I don't know, like if you just confidently and blindly just carry it, maybe it does work out. But I find the outside world a little too business oriented for me. Like I'll check it out, but I'm comfortable here.
Understandable. And Iceland is so beautiful. I also wouldn't want to necessarily leave.
Yeah, but it will both be like, it's so beautiful, I don't want to leave, and then we have a week like we had now with constant like hurricane storms. We're like, what are we doing here? Like, my house is shaking. It could be the earthquakes, or it could be a hurricane. It's like, is the ocean gonna breach my wall? It's like. But I guess we're traumatized enough to be funny, like I can handle this.
Yeah, you have to handle it with humor, otherwise.
Yeah, definitely. So he'll break you.
No. All right, then. I don't know if the next question is something that you will be able to answer, but I thought I would just put it in, and like if not, then that's it. But of course, we tend to, because like the sagas and everything are from Iceland, we tend to like put the practices that we know from Iceland onto other like Scandinavian countries. So of course, everyone also assumes that there are also Völvas in Denmark or in Sweden or in Norway. But do you happen to know if there are, and if yes, if they are kind of different from what you do, or if it's very similar? Could also be that it's very similar. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know many, and like I only know one that had this, in a way passed down from her mother, and but it was still like they're going through still generations of having to keep this very low key. It's dangerous to be open this way, but they've held it in many ways and tapped into it again. It was just like it didn't die. It just became like protected, and then I see it rise up in this person I call a sister to me, and it's working so beautifully with family also, so that we have a lot in common. It's just living in a bigger world. It's kind of more of a hustle just to live, and can't really just be I'm in such a privileged position here that it has to be more work in the 3D world too, but the others that I have heard of that I do take seriously, like, are people that are really just going into like the studies that they can, like going into archaeology and just kind of like looking at these items and trying to figure out what it is. And I can see many of them really tapping into something in it, and I can tell that they're doing the right things. I think just currently, I just see a lot of people just being able to pick up the torch now, and they're just finding their ways, And then compared to Iceland, it's just been like a continuous thing in our culture. So you just pop up, and you have a lot of support and to help here a lot.
Mm.
And then, so we have a lot of people very sincerely stepping into these things. I actually don't know, like even this person I'm talking about that I take very seriously, working with their mother, they haven't even called themselves a Völva yet. This is how I recognize them. Because I see it. So, and just like the terms that we use, like with, I can go like, yeah, that's a Völva from that tradition. They're doing a similar role. That's a term that we would use, and we just recognize it as such.
Yeah.
Be vice versa. When I meet another culture, they'll be like, "You're that guy from your peoples."
Yeah. You're like the wise person.
You're that person,
Yeah.
wise enough to know you don't know it, like. And then there's also the ones that are just like you see pop up on the internet that are just doing like selling courses and claiming this and just kind of like winging it, and it gets it's awkward. It is awkward, and it can sometimes be very reckless also, especially when people are attempting to go into the special kinds of trance and things like that. It can really mess up people's brains.
Oh yeah.
So, and probably like the sole reason I ever, expose myself on internet and say I'm a Völva to the larger community is just to say, like, here's a person from Iceland that knows their shit, if you take it seriously or not. But it is somebody that can make you accountable, that can actually call this out. And some people will take seriously because of the pillars I have living here. And it's not to judge anybody in that sense, but when it's become harmful, I do like kind of like either say something directly or make fun of it. And that is, I don't even recognize it as part of this spiritual work or something like that. So it's both these very hard polarities of people finding themselves, and I believe that, and I encourage it. And then the ones that are just commodifying it, because spirituality has become it's been tried to capitalize, and I'm really anti that.
Oh yeah, I feel that. I feel like there is such a I don't know how to say that in English. That's hard. It's very hard to differentiate if you see it from the outside, if it's a person who is genuinely trying to reconnect with those practices and a person who just wants to make money off of it. But I always just think if a person is too outspoken about it and just puts themselves out there directly, like, oh yeah, I am a Völva, and here you can buy this and this and this and give me money here and there, then it's already a little bit.
Yeah, and this is like we wouldn't here. We don't even come close to this, not at all. Like some exchange is a good thing, but I keep it old school. I receive jewelry and food, and just any kind of like exchange like that. And people have offered me money before, and I was like, yeah, I need to buy a chicken coop, so I'll take that exchange. It's always like something I need that will fill something up on my side, because I do give a lot of myself and my time when I do something for another person, and as much as I wish it was just a channeling that wouldn't have any influence, it does. And yeah, it's just like, so I guess like the biggest difference, I'm sorry, I got ADHD, so I will definitely go a little off the charts.
No problem. Feel free to ramble.
Yeah. So the biggest difference here is this kind of like our cultural perspective of it, and just kind of like how we hold it with us, and the things that we just don't touch, And it's a big indicator if somebody is like, I'm a Völva and I'm gonna have the Seiðr course like this, and then you look at the price tag on it, and you can just see how it is. You can just please read it right. If it's cricket, a real Völva doesn't really need to do that, And the whole purpose of it is because you can't be, I mean this in the nicest way, but being used or being able to be utilized to do the certain things by spirit, and they can take that away easily. And if you're self-serving, trying to serve community, it just kind of like blows up on itself. So I wouldn't say that like I'm the humblest person in the world, but I know better to be humble on this and never make it about me. And I think it's important because it will create a lot of suffering. And it's like, this is a field that will smack you in the face so hard. And it's not that I didn't learn from experience. I definitely have. So it's like, oh, okay. So that's how that goes. You know?
I guess the spirits will be, even if maybe the other people can't differentiate between you being serious about it and just wanting fame and money, the spirits will be able to see that.
Yeah, and like what happens with people that just go a crooked path with it, it will start taking on your mental health and just like bad luck around you and things like that. It's like you've gone off path, so it's all going to be crooked, you know. So like another big part of this role as a Völva is just this listening, you know, and just really learn to register it in your body and in your consciousness, like what is true and right and what we should go by. And there's also like spirituality. It's not like all love and light. We got a lot of crazy shit out there, you know, and we have deceiving spirits and things. So it's like, this is why it's daily. Like maintenance, if you're going to be tapping into the spirit world and you're going to be there doing that, you have to maintain your team and what you're doing. And trust me, I'll fall from that many times and go back into the discipline again. So it's like these things are just like, you know, you learn from a young age to navigate through and take seriously. So again, we just have this, we have a foundation and root that really does support us and kind of like keep us from the wild county, you know, with this. And can anybody make mistakes in the way? Yeah. And I do understand monetizing some things. Like I do understand that, like if you're just in this kind of a rut, I will talk to spirit like, hey, you know, I'm just reminding you that I have a human and I have a bill to pay, you know. And so, but you got me on this mission right now, and I need to, I'm here for it, but you got to help me get through that, you know. And it will like, and I haven't had to advertise like I need money now, but I will get like a project that will offer me that, and I'm like, yeah, I'll take it now, you know, as needed. And it's like and there's nothing really to honestly gain in this life from it other than, you know, just keep the flow, do this part, fulfill your mission, you know, and that is really good when you can help, you know.
Yeah, you probably give more of yourself than you receive back in return.
Yeah, we're working on trying to balance that, you know. You know, we're trying to get me out of burnout modes, you know, and finding maintenance in it, you know. Water me so I can continue. And because it's when you work so much in spirit, you can forget you have a body, you know.
Oh yeah.
You have and we have another dynamic, you know, just here in life. So that's another thing. We just balance a lot. Historically, Völva in Iceland are very much known for just being, you know, homestead, mainly women, non-binary people too, probably trans people too. You know, we have some clues of that. I'm non-binary, so I'm here. So and I recognize that too, being quite like a homestead person and kind of like working from my own home and just kind of like in my radius, you know. But in our early settlement years, so we would have them come through from other countries, like from Finland, very famous for that. And we learned a lot from the Finns here. And like the Seiðr that we work with is called Finnmerkur Seiðr. So it's like they are our elders. And historically, many went to learn from them. And then they would come here also, especially on the east coast of Iceland. And so they were very nomadic, and some of them stayed, some of them didn't, you know. And yeah, we do circumnavigate the island, but otherwise, like, this is my base here. And historically, we're more nomadic on the mainland. So yeah, so that's kind of like how it survived too. Like you have a farm in a fjord, it's isolated. You're not going to get around too much, so people come to you maybe, or you have a season where you travel, but it really a lot maintained in our isolation. So both a very young nation, but also a very capsulized one.
Yeah. But I love that it did survive, because I feel like similar practices in other countries did not survive, and I think that's very sad.
Yeah, it's like it's a perspective thing. It can be awakened, and then I think people just need to recognize this in themselves too, that it's quite alive, and like we have, it's like the end goal is not to like become a Völva. Like if you're working with sorcery, witchery, if you're a clairvoyant, you're a seer, healer, all of that is all like, for me, it's just like, it's so worthy and it's so big, and so like here in this country, it's like if you're a Völva, it doesn't mean that you're like you're king, right? Or like, it's like, a lot of people think it's like about power, or it's like a title that people look up to, but it's more like it's respect, and it's just like, and thank you for filling that space. I'm good doing this here. Good, thank you, because we need each other, And it's just like, so people just amplify it and just know that it is important work to be somebody that just sees nature, really sees it, connects to it, and has capabilities that help. I think a lot of that is this, like, it's this field, we're on the same team, and I see that alive, because we're not all the seers are gone in the world, are they? No.
Definitely not. And I feel like nowadays more and more people want to get back to that.
Yeah, it is, and a lot more people are going like, yeah, my grandmother used to talk like this, or like, it's starting to come up, and I'm like, yeah, that is the thing. Just your grandma said that is the thing. Run with it, okay?
Yeah.
Like that is something. So we just have to realize that we can just be totally open about it now, and you don't have to have a title or be something. Just do the things and just see how it goes,
Yeah. Titles in the end don't mean anything.
It really doesn't. It's not going to come with me in the grave. Well, it might be on my tombstone, but like, but yeah, it's not a big deal,
Alrighty, then let's get into the questions that are a little bit more personal. I know you already tapped into this a little bit, but like, how did you become a Völva? Like, how did you even get interested in like the other worlds, and like maybe witchcraft stuff, magical practices? Were you I don't know, did you maybe get that from family, or was it like something that just sparked in yourself?
Yeah, like I have a very unique beginning of this life. I remember being born, and just in the space between, it has a longer story behind that, but I came and then I left and I came back in my family, and it was only a short period between that when I didn't make it and then I came through, but I remember where I was in between. And that's where I started talking to my ancestors, and they all were women. They had like kind of weird turbans on their heads that I do recognize from elf nations now here in Iceland. And they were just talking to me, and they would be telling me things, and I just had this like this expanded consciousness, I guess we can call it, and the sense of knowing. And then I remember being born, I remember being baby, and I remember doing these impulsive things like crying and stuff, but being very aware that this is impulsive crying. It's very odd. And then so it's very early where I started to experience like leaving my body, and like I was like really into it when I'm like 3 years old. I was like, I could make it happen. And that's about the time when my people felt that I had a vibe, there's the way you look. I was quick to walk, quick to talk, all these things, to draw, saying things that people are going like, what, like it's like, I'll just say like, you had Rice Krispies for breakfast, and they're like, where did this come from? Like I just knew things. So that as soon as that starts happening, when you're just know things, then they go like, you're a bunny, it's just a little, I'm just little, and I'm like, what's that, and And I started just to practice more and more like that, flying and then going between dimensions and having a huge group of friends that were dead. And I was so popular in my neighborhood. I had so many friends that weren't alive. I have a very odd memory of my youth and my popularity growing up. And then it really just becomes like I'm just being myself, and this is just how people around me started answering back. And then very quickly, like if somebody was getting sick or something, I'm just a child, but they would go like, can you pray for this person? Can you talk to the spirit to this person? Can you sit by their rock and talk to this person? So people started just giving you these little projects. So I really got deep into prayer in my way. And that became like my first workings was prayer. And then I started to astral project to this person. I started to show up in different places. People would see me walking around. And this is all in my young age development years. And it's really just like, I don't know. Like when I landed here, I was kind of like, what do you want to be when you grow up? I'm like, I just want to help people. That's it. You know, like school, no. Do this, no. You know, people just kind of leaned on it that this would kind of just have this development. People could see that I would kind of like, this would be my way of living, you know. So my path was not like straight and narrow, and it just didn't happen like no decision made or anything like that, you know. It just like people just recognized it, and then it just became it, and then I become it, and carrying on that way, you know. And there's no stopping it either. So yeah, I try not to make it my whole personality, but it really just is what I am, you know. And like my mother would say, she's like, you don't ever choose this, you just are, you know.
Yeah.
And I would never be frustrated with this, but she could sometimes get frustrated, you know, like, oh, spirit's got to give you a break for a little bit now, you know. And then it became like, you know, negotiation, how to talk and how to make it work. And mostly it was just how I communicate with the people around me to make things work, you know. And yeah, so that it was not a choice. It was nothing like that. You're born into it. It's in your culture. So we just recognize it around us. It's not like we're not just discovering this yesterday or something. It just is around. I couldn't say that I had an interest of becoming, and I couldn't say that I went to study it or I was trying to find others or anything like that. It was just kind of like, here we are, you know. And just through meeting other people, I've learned a lot about how they approach things and see things. How I learned about witches. Like I didn't have this cultural understanding of witches, what it meant to the mainland until much later in my life, in my teens and things like that. And then I started going like, yeah, okay, this is a thing, you know. But we call it this here, you know.
No.
Yeah.
That's crazy how early that started for you. That's insane.
And this is common. And this is common, you know, like it was not a surprise to anybody, you know. It's like just as soon as I started to communicate it, then it was just like, okay, all right. So we're doing that now. And my mother just was such a big support. My mother, she's just like, she knows that I'm in vulnerable positions as a Völva in what we do. So she is my main helper, protector, and she would take me to places to help me, like take me to elders and take me to gatherings with others to help me. And a lot of my youth was in grounding and just trying to get me to stop flying everywhere, you know, because it was so fun, you know. It was like, I didn't understand it, like why they were always going like, you need to ground. And I'm like, you're boring.
Like other children, it's like, stop drinking or like stop going to parties. And for you, it was like, stop flying.
Yeah, stop flying, you know. And also, don't go to the clubs. There's demons there. They're going to attach to you because you're going to be this type of person and it's going to be extra hard, you know. Like there was a lot of this kind of thing. And it's like also you don't get the same allowance to like be a teenager, like and things like that. It's like, yes, I did a lot of teenage things and I did party and I did all these, like I went wild and did all the things I shouldn't do or something like that. But the repercussions were just like so extreme, you know. And we're very superstitious here. So we do believe that people will think through you, and if you're already like trance medium, that's not a great combo, you know. And so I had to like kind of like navigate those years in a specific way. And my mother really wanted me to have the allowance to be a teenager and go a little while before she could see that I would adult really quickly, you know. I don't even know what we're talking about. I'm gone.
We were talking about how you became a Völva, how you got into it.
Yeah, okay. So that was
so
my
we're still full on track.
Like my grandmother's like, maybe we should get you medication. I'm like, no, it's gonna be fine. You know, if you just go along this journey with me, we're gonna be okay.
I'm used to it. My fiance has ADHD, so I'm totally used to it.
Yeah, and it's like I laugh at this a lot because like the bigger spirit that I work with, that I do call the big one, which is the Völva. I would always go, I'm the sitting one, they are the Völva. Okay, so I always would disassociate like that. And I was just the sitting one, you know, and then we kind of melded more together with time, you know. It's funny, but I'll be like, why did you even choose me? I'm like the most gullible person. I'm so naive. I can't keep track of a thought. You know, I'm going to forget this, you know, and I'll probably do something reckless on the way, you know, like why was this your most reliable thing? Or are you guys desperate or something? You know, like
you got an extra challenge.
Yeah, or them, because it's them. But when I do ceremony, it's very disciplined, and then also just like this method of kind of like people will ask a question, but we'll go on a journey. It's part of the gig, really, you know.
All right, so another question that was asked a lot of the times, and I am also very interested about the answer. What would you say is the biggest or like the most important part of your practice?
Well, what feels most important is when you get a calling to do something, and then you do that calling, you know. When I speak of a calling, it's like I'm an activist also, and I'm working very much on saving the whales in Iceland because it's allowed here. And when I was even like not in good health or anything, I got a calling to do a Seiðr ceremony for the whales. Wow. And it was, everything worked out just fine. I was in good health, good spirits, you know, I had the right group of people with me. It was very powerful. And seeing that this Seiðr resulted in that the boats were delayed to go out, I believe that we helped to save about 200 whales because nobody expected this storm, you know. And it was a very, very powerful Seiðr, and the people working with me were just so in it and did all the things, have the right people, and so deeply listening to the instructions on how to make this happen, who should be there, how it's directed, and then seeing the results. It's everything, you know. And so and I told the other actors that we did a Seiðr, and they're like, yeah, just like with good prayers and good action, you don't have to believe it or not, you know, but I felt it was very important. And then it's like, I feel it's important when I had a calling to help save Elf Church, bring awareness to our Elf Church that was going to be destroyed. Well, it probably is by now. I went across the island, you know, from all the way from where I am. I went to the total, I'm like southwest of the island in the corner, and then I had to go all the way east. And just the whole journey there and being there and doing the work there and the results afterwards, I'm seeing just then how our community and people reacted to showing up there. That is important, and I feel it's so important. And I didn't tell nobody I was going there, but the word got out, and all of a sudden it became a news article, and it became public. And then I'm in a radio show, and I'm like, and we're saving our Elf Church, and it's like I'm being talked to by people that are heathen, that are Christian, that are just anything, you know, farmers. Then it's like that is everything, you know. And then it's the healing and the support in healing. I find that very important. For me, it's super important because I do work with people that can be terminally ill, and just being support through that period. We will do something maybe weekly or more often with that person, following through with their journey when somebody's coming into this world. is also very important. And like when we're invited to do some blessings or anything like that, that is just like, that is such a precious thing, being there from the beginning and the end. That is like human wise. And then also I do not let everybody into the ceremonies that I do when I'm in trance. And I think it's kind of important to also say that in Iceland, when we're talking about trance, we're talking about possession, really. You know, it's like not that hypnotizing trance and journey. So I see a lot of people going like Seiðr and trance or something. It's like kind of like going into the zone and journeying in, bringing messages back. But which is I can do that too. But the reason what I am the Völva is because I can incorporate these spirits to do certain ceremonies that are very old. And we don't have somebody that gives you all the formula. We just see that this person is doing the same as they did before. So that's a very strong indicator also. These ceremonies are very, very sacred and very important, very powerful. And holding that for me personally is my biggest responsibility. Doing this well and as much as I can. But if somebody's not supposed to be there, I will not allow them into the space, because it's also a very dangerous aspect of the work we do.
Yeah, of course.
So that is, for me, I think that is very important, that I maintain myself to be able to hold that. And if this incorporation of spirit, and I rarely talked about it until recently, because I was really afraid of what people would do with that information. Would they start like going like, okay, Völva does that, and they start like inviting a spirit in? I'm like, no. Definitely do not do that. It's like I really did start with, just the journeying part, and then it melded more together in a very held, safe-paced way, with my mother literally next to me and making sure everything is good and well. And people don't have that support, like, please leave it alone. But you can do it in a different way.
Yeah, please don't sit down in your living room all alone and invite spirits into your body. That's probably not a good idea.
Like, definitely just avoid spirits in the body unless you come from a very solid foundation from it. That ceremony there, I've worked with Mongolians, and they recognize, okay, we're kind of like coming from the same kind of a branch here, because they also recognize I'm working with ancestors in a very similar kind of way. And then some people have also gone like, okay, this does reminisce a little bit like out of like Wudon and stuff like that, kind of. But this is all very, very held by tradition, and it's not for everybody to do so, and it's not important for everybody to do so. It's important for me because that happens to me, and I can't help it to hold it responsibly for myself and for others, because you could lose your mind so easily. And I wouldn't do it unless it was serving or helping somebody. And it does help people come out of it. And it can't be trivial. Like, it's like, I'm not going to tell you where you put your phone. I'm like, it's so it's like, yeah, it's usually important things. So we just try to do that well.
That's beautiful. But now we've talked now about like the most important things, but like, do you also have some smaller, maybe even like daily things that you do?
Yes. Well, I do the out sitting every day, and like, if I can't go outside, I'm listening my window, and it's just to quiet things down and just tap into your alignment. So if you're good there, then you can recognize what's coming at you. So I kind of like, this is kind of like my source here, kind of like just meditate, absorb the nature around me, tap into that light, and just let that kind of like nourish me and keep me in good maintenance, and like it slows things down, so I have better reactions to the world, So, and that is also just how I commune with spirit and tap into things. So it is very, very good to be able to do that daily if I can. I can fall out of discipline. It can happen to anybody, but if you get into the role of it, it's really, really good, And then I also just like, it will be great that I could maintain my outside. I have my altar is outside of the house, and I but I do recognize to check it out every day, but I'm not like doing offerings every single day. But if it's getting like, if I'm escalating towards like certain work, then offerings will start picking up a lot, and this communication in between. So definitely that. And then, and I'm really into praying to just keep me okay, and then during meditation and prayer, you can also just start like looking at your energy field, making sure there's nothing like getting stuck on it or things like that. The self-maintenance is like a thing. But I really do my best. This is like just drink that water, sit down for like 10 minutes, keep this maintenance going. And then also just using life as a teacher, like not let it just happen to you. So anything from good times to bad, it's like always registering like what kind of medicine it can be, and that will result into like something that you can guide somebody else in, but you also gotta be aligned enough to know what is your place and what is good and what's for you or not to say,
Yeah.
So it's complicated and simple at the same time.
But I love the practice, just the daily practice of having like some kind of meditation, calming down, and like getting back to your own center to realize where you are at. Because I feel like a lot of people, of course, like especially if you look at like the typical meditation where you're supposed to not think and stuff, and people always struggle with that and say like, yeah, but I can't do that. But then it's like, you don't necessarily have to do it that way. But I feel like it's probably very, 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 very important for every single magical practitioner, especially if someone is working with spirits or with deities. Because like if you don't know where you are at, if you don't know how your energy state is, how you are feeling, how are you supposed to know if someone is tapping in and wanting to like say something or wants to communicate? I feel like it's much, much, much easier if you know where you are at in that moment.
Absolutely, absolutely. It does take this kind of like know yourself. I think that's even written on like some wall in Delphi or something. Like it was like, I remember I saw it in a book. It was like written on some kind of temple, like know yourself. And that is so much key, and because humans are so impulsive and reactionary, and we can project so much of our own selves, and you really have to practice getting out of your way and out of your mind and kind of like go beyond, to be able to just kind of like sincerely understand the situation at hand and what is the best way to approach it. And like with meditation, I find I've been into meditation my whole life, and the way I learned it was like, first it was just through playing. It was just like I was given just kind of like a mantra, and I'm talking about from in our cultural context, just kind of like what we work with, which is kind of just breathe, listen to the breathing, listen to the wind, meld into that together, breathe together, and it does bring you to that state of meditative mind, and it's and it really does help with the clearing and everything, just to know where you are and what is for you, because a lot of things will be static here. You really need it out to be able to have this kind of like clear channel. And then in the beginning, thinking a lot is just like, it's part of the process. Like I will spend like a good 5-10 minutes having a personal TED talk in my head, like I will argue, I will just like, it's not like, peace. It's like, it can start violent for me, 10 minutes or more, if I'm sitting, if I'm walking, it depends a little bit. I'll be more emotional with my walking meditations. And then just like after that has just had its go, just go through it, it becomes still, and especially if you just allow it to happen, just blah, 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 and then it gets tired, and then it becomes still.
That's exactly the same experience that I have made. Sometimes it just feels like you have to get the thoughts out. Yeah. Like you have to think the thoughts and then they're gone. But like get them out there, like the first 5 to 10 minutes, just think. And then you can see at some point it will get quieter.
Oh yeah. I find it so interesting, just like dealing with the first part of the loudness, getting into the stillness, Then I might get bored being still, and I'm like, I don't feel like being still, you know, like, and then I'm like, no, sit longer. Like, if you want to stand up, you should sit longer now, you know, like working towards, working through avoidance, you know. And I find this all just kind of like lifting weights in a way, you know. It's like it's an exercise, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
And all the humanity and all that stuff in the way and into it is just like, this is part of the thing, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, yeah, we try to do good with self-maintenance, you know. Also just choices of like, it's better if you're not eating unhealthy foods. It's better for the energies to work through you. It is better if you're wearing natural materials. They don't like plastics and synthetics. So it can kind of like, you know, it feels weird, you know. And it's like it's a lot of little things that I kind of like, it just becomes like your value, how you do things, you know. But I am so not innocent of any of this. Like, I can definitely go through a time of just like, I just need human food. Give me a like hamburger or something. But definitely not in the time leading towards ceremony where I will be in trance, because that will just result in purging, you know, like I'll get sick. So I fast, drink water, all this happens, and then I can eat afterwards.
That's very interesting, because I feel like that is such a shared practice that so many traditions have, that they kind of feel like they're in some way or another fasting before very difficult rituals.
It really is, you know, and I'm so lucky to have met with other traditions, having the opportunity to be in a time and place together like that. There was a event in France that I would go to. There would be some plastic shamans there, but there would also just be like very sincere people on the same kind of like adventure as me, you know. And we'll definitely just recognize it. Like, we just knew like, this person's fasting, that's going into ceremony, you know, and we'll talk about it. And I was also vegetarian until I met the Mongolians, because they could see me just wearing out. And they were like, oh, just give them a piece of yak or something, you know. And it was just like, it really did like brought me to life. It was because also my spirits like that kind of food. So that really just helped me a lot. So I do eat meat sometimes now if needed. Yeah, my spirits, some of them eat, and some of them smoke, and some of them drink coffee. So I do break fast sometimes in trance. I come out the other side oblivious to that. But yeah, my mom used to put coffee on, and we'd have cigarettes ready and things like that.
That's so interesting. So you're like in trance, and then the spirits are like, I want that meat, and then you go start eating some meat, or like
Yeah, it can happen. It can happen, but it's like, it has to be very plain. Nothing. I've had raw meat in that state.
wow.
Yeah, and it's like, I'm still kind of just going like, how did that happen? And why am I okay?
How did you even manage to eat that?
Yeah, it's like, not. I hope it doesn't gross anybody out, but I've had raw hearts, you know.
Wow.
From specific spirit, and it will be like a weird craving beforehand, because sometimes I have hearts for sacrifice, but then all of a sudden it becomes like, okay, this heart's coming out, and this is going to be fed to the spirit today, you know. My favorite is the coffee and smoker, you know, like that's it's coming back from that is kind of like, okay, I wake up, I'm outside, I've got a coffee and cigarette, I'm like, okay, so she showed up, all right, good, you know. I don't have weird iron taste in my mouth or anything like that. We have one that drinks alcohol. I don't drink alcohol. I haven't drank alcohol in forever, but I have one that drinks.
So sometimes the spirits just want to party, and then
They just want to party, but I come out of it absolutely sober, you know. So it's
interesting.
It is very, very interesting, you know. And the drinker doesn't come up often, but it has happened, and it's not fun not to have anything around when that happens.
Oh wow. So of course, if people that know what a Völva is, what instantly pops up in their head is, of course, Seiðr, because like if you hear Völva, you think Seiðr. How central would you say is Seiðr to your work?
Oh, it's just very central. Like that is just like the part of accumulating myself to become the way I am. Sitting out and the way I do and the way I melt with nature. It's part of the melding of Seiðr, and this connection with the elements and spirit. And we do approach Seiðr through spirit work, and it's a very we could say that some magic galdur can be like a direct line, like you do this and that, and it's like kind of like a linear thing, and they say there's like more of a turning and movement, and it becomes something. So we can use many words to describe Seiðr, but it is kind of like this melding it. Just you don't just kind of like pick it up and just I'm gonna do it tomorrow, never again. You kind of like just have it in you carry it, and it activates for certain things. And it really just like it in daily life, it's just kind of like sometimes it's how you communicate with somebody, like if I'm dealing with a certain type of person that a certain energy can kind of like influence, it's going to be there, like, okay, if I'm dealing with an aggressive man, will I tap into my Seiðr to navigate that? Definitely. Can I navigate him out of my way? I will, And it's just like this energy they can use with your gaze and the way you talk, and the way you project. And in Icelandic, the language, we're usually tapping our tongues to the roof of our mouth. It does activate kind of like this third eye thing, kind of like this concept from Sanskrit and why they use mantras to activate this. Our language is like this. And having control over the language and harnessing the language, like in kraftaskald, like a power poetry, and having control of that, it's like you're having an influence of something that can manipulate everything around you. So we are very superstitious of how you say things, just in daily life. How you say things, how you look when you say things. Definitely do not point. It really is something that you just carry with you, and people will go like, oh shit, okay, you're that, okay. You can definitely help just by how I feel around you. And then it's just really just like the things that you carry with you, the way you are, the way you talk. And we have like a word for it, about a Seiðberandi. A Seiðberandi is like almost like you're always pregnant with it. So you're always carrying it. And it's like comes something that you carry. Like if you say, I'm Seiðberandi, that means like I'm not just kind of like just picking it up on my own. I'm carrying it on, and it's a daily thing. And then we can activate it or like direct it through ceremony. And it's always like, maybe we can say that some magic is about, and we'll see it like this, some magic is about like manipulating things around you, just the way that like we carve runes and how we carve it in wood. You're already manipulating nature. The way you speak to them and awaken it, you're already you are directly doing this, even though I believe spirit always has to have something in it. And say that it's like it's more fluid and more part of you. But they all can come together. And it gets a little confusing that when people are learning about galdur, they will recognize, which is very good, that is about sounding and singing. So with a gala, which is also projection and directing energy, and also it's conjured and it moves through you. But then we also call like magic galdur.
Yeah, so it can become confusing if you just read about it and you don't really know the Icelandic language.
Yeah, so it's like we will say gala for what we do in Seiðr, the gala, or Seiðlæti, Seiðr noise, and then galdur is what we call our sorcery or magic sorcery. I don't know, because it doesn't look like Wicca, it's like it's different.
yeah. Icelandic magic is very special. Let's just call it that.
But we definitely are related, like I definitely like I hear from like different kinds of witches in the mainland, like yourself, like definitely we recognize this. It's like would not be hard for a practitioner to pick up on what we're doing here, like and we're still working with the elements, we're still doing these connections with it, and this direct communication and workings. So that is all the same. It's just we just live on this island, and it does have an influence, the nature, our community, our ancestors, family, it does influence. So
yeah. You have definitely the advantage that you were a little bit more isolated, like during history, so that
Yeah.
I feel like still if you look at, for example, the Scandinavian countries, you see that like the more north you get, the more you kind of seem to get to like the real deal, and the more south you get, the more it's influenced by continental European stuff. So
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, it's just like, and as long as it's doing good work, this is great, you know? That is just wonderful. And I really do, I do appreciate like modern witches and just what I'm seeing in the outside world. I just think it's wonderful. And just for that like really in my memory, it's not long ago that, I mean, we would have just been killed, you know? Bonus with Iceland, we were not killed. That's the thing. It's like when the witch hunts were in the mainland and then in some parts in America and in all these places, we were left alone. And when it did pop up a bit, it was all men that were accused and some were executed, but nothing in comparison of in mainland.
No.
Possibly, they say one woman was killed or executed, but there is also a side story that she escaped. So we don't have. Yeah, there's been accusations, but they always let us go. There was not a single woman burned on the stake here in Iceland. And why? Because they needed us. Like they saw that we're not like doing harm or anything like that. The women were seen as like healers and doctors and seers and stuff that, you know, your only news outlet really, you know, like they're not gonna and we're all related. So it's like, oh, you're gonna kill your aunt? Really? Like that just helped save your kid, you know, or just gave you the news thing to help you with your travels or something like that. So like they would leave us alone, but the ones that were executed was a lot of it was like people were just not educated about mental illness and things like that. Yeah. And the biggest like spree of witch killing kind of like happened around hallucinations around a priest's wife. So she was hallucinating a lot, and I could really understand if you're living in like some way up north fjord and you come from very Christian background, and you maybe start believing in devilish stuff, and you start hallucinating, you see the walls bleeding, you know, you're gonna be like, what is happening? There's only one explanation. It's probably freaking Jon. He did it, you know. He talks to birds a lot. He might have done it, you know. It's like it was desperate, really. It's assumed that she might have been drinking something, some mildew from plants that were used in brewing. So it's kind of like that, and we have these explanations for it. But yeah, huge difference between the mainland and here. It survived, and as soon as like it tapped into here, like any kind of that vibe, when we went from Catholic to Lutheran, then they started really try to put some chokehold on us. That's when our middle-aged Galder blew up, you know, like these tattoos and stuff. This is all coming like when they were trying to suppress us the most. It didn't work.
It didn't really work.
They needed it, you know. And many of the accusers, you would find stuff under their beds, you know. They were trying to like survive a winter, you know, like.
Yeah.
It's silly. It's just really silly. So the isolation has been wonderful. But I was lonely for a long time, and then when we became less isolated, now I miss the isolation.
Yeah, there are too many tourists. Oh gods. When I was in Iceland, the south, that was crazy. And I wasn't even there in like June or July. I was there in May, early May, so it's like
yeah, it's too much. It's too much for us and too much for our nature. And I'm just like every year I hope that we fall out of trend, you know. And because we would love travelers. We were one of those families that would have travelers tenting in our yards or just crashing on our couch, because that was one way to learn from the world. We didn't have internet, you know. And then it's just like, yeah, in recent history it just escalated so much. And it was like, it's okay. I was like, it's okay. But when I started to go to sacred places that were, you know, like maybe our only reprieve, and they started showing up there, then that's where I kind of something snapped in me. I was like, no. But we do have guides here that have spotted us, and they have navigated people away.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, I have a deal with one on the West Fjords that we had handshake deal, really, really great. And so it's just kind of like how we need to just find better ways to navigate this and maybe control how much comes at once.
And the tourists need more respect. That's also
most of these tourists, they're not coming and caring about our tradition. They're not. And I feel like if they would communicate more and talk to us more, that would be great. But it's just kind of like they're just passing through the terminal and just taking pictures and then walking off again. It just becomes very grotesque, But in last summer, I really just sat somewhere and then somebody showed up and I said, I'm having a moment, this is a place for my family, and they'll go, oh, I'm interrupting. I'm like, not on purpose. But now, that's something I would have never done before. I would have invited everybody welcome, but now it's like I have to protect some peace around me,
Yeah.
My village could get more popular though. Like people need to come around this region a little bit more, and maybe would have more services in my village. Need to build a waterfall in my backyard or something,
Oh yeah, that would help.
That would help a lot. But we have an Airbnb next door, and those people are so great about us. They really, really love what we do here in my house, and they will sometimes even spy a little bit. And then we have a deal, like, yes, you can spy. Like I'm making a big fire and it smells weird. Like, please, you can check it out. And they've asked like if I would like to do something with the travelers, and I'm kind of like, maybe something, maybe to maintain my rune reading skills or something like that, But yeah, early stages of this, really.
Yeah, but it would be cool to like be able to show tourists a little bit of the traditions, because I feel like most people, they just see pretty pictures of Iceland online and then they come because they want to see like the waterfalls and maybe the Nordic lights or something, but they have no clue about the culture. So I don't know.
Where are these tourists coming from? Because they don't show any interest, really. Like, I'm like, it's like if they would, but then I mean, there has been travelers here that I'm like, yes, let's meet for coffee, of course. It is gems, of course. Like you would be so welcome for coffee and ceremony, And so we do have that, but it's the majority. I don't know what people these are. They're so alien to me. It is so alien to me, like just how they kind of like run through the country real quick, and I don't get it. But like I said, maybe those people they'll finish that, and then we get like some travelers, slow travelers. That would be really great,
It will get unpopular again, I guess. I guess there are always trends. So
yeah, we're years in this, and I'm still waiting. It's like the volcano we've been waiting for now. I'm like, kind of like, be smoky, because close air traffic.
Stop the planes! Stop the planes!
Just for a little bit.
Just a little break.
Yeah, but sometimes there are times I'll be sitting by a popular waterfall and I'll see those people, and if the longer they stand, the more I appreciate it. Then I go like, of course you're welcome. Of course, please connect. And if this does anything for you, please, take it. It's a gift. But as soon as they litter or become loud or something like that, then I'm like, the elves here are dangerous. Don't do that.
Don't throw your trash on the ground. Not a good idea.
No, bad idea. But, we have very violent elves.
Yeah. All right. I just realized I have probably something. Yeah, probably a very important question. I think I don't have it on the list. I don't know why nobody asked, but I just realized I don't have it on the list. Because like I just jumped into Seiðr and I didn't even ask the question what Seiðr even actually is.
Yeah, that's the question.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, So it's taken a while for me to find any kind of bridging terms about this, you know, and I'm just going to say this is just a bridge. And so we could say it is shamanic / sorcery. And then what I mean about the shamanic part in generic terms is how we commune with spirit, the ceremonies that we do around it, and what are we doing it for? And it's always for something, you know. And so that would be that part, and also trance part, whether it's like incorporation of spirit or just being in spirit, the spirit flight around it. That is all like part of the Seiðr thing. It's a conjuring tradition, so we are conjuring things. We say Seiðr Magna, so we're like empowering it. So we also can say like we're brewing a Seiðr, like brewing a brew, like witch's brew. So I would say that, you know, like I would sit in ceremony. I would be the water, we can say, held by a pot, would be the people around, and then these little elements will come through to create the Seiðr that we are performing. There's a performative Seiðr in ceremony, and so it's this kind of like wheeling and again until it becomes like have you done like spinning water, like shh, and then you stop and then it just spins on its own. And then you're just in there, like captivated by the spinning. You know, that is like the vibe that we're going for.
Oh,
yeah, and so that's what I mean. Like this becomes like it seeps into your whole body, really, and becomes kind of like something that sounds off of you after that. So it's like Seiðr is like, we would call it like melding together, brewing something, connecting something, putting it into formation, and then say that this has to have this movement. Just like when you become hypnotic, when you're traveling in spirit, like it is like you kind of like build up to it, then you reach that zone. That's what we're going for. So it always like, and if you read in the sagas or in your stories, you will see like somebody is conjuring. They're always conjuring the Seiðr. That's always there. Like it's with them, then you conjure it up. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. What I'm wondering right now is like, because that always sounds like there's multiple people involved who are doing it together.
Yes.
Could someone do it on their own?
Yes, it is. And it's like, it's just how it works here. It's like, it has so much to do with being together and doing it together. It just makes it more powerful. And it's also just having more people weigh into it, like and getting different perspectives, like something I won't see, somebody else will see, for instance. The Völva sometimes can be like the central navigator, just because they're just receiving a lot of the messages and just kind of like picking it in for this specific thing. But everything that comes into it, it matters. But who we work with is very important, because if anybody brings something like say villur, which is like cricket Seiðr into it, it can like destroy everything and cause the opposite effect, and also on ourselves. But yes, but we can also do on our own, and I do it regularly, you know, when through what I call prayer, and it starts softer and then it starts building up, and we get to a point where it's the spirit's taking over and I don't even understand what's going on anymore, but I know what it is, you know, and then it comes down again. But I would never I would never go into incorporation trance, trying to find a way to talk about it, because I don't want to call possession, because it's not about them owning me or taking over me. This is a deal we have. We have a working relationship. It's generational. So let's say incorporation for now. I wouldn't do that on my own.
Yeah, that's understandable.
Yeah. And it's, if I get a pick up of that vibe, you know, they don't even put that into my position, you know. But yeah, definitely, it's like, definitely you can do it on. And I say, like, you know, never underestimate, you know, brewing a tea, you know, and understanding that to us, that is a Seiðr, you know. You're putting all these elements together and you're brewing, you got these intentions going on, you're conjuring some good medicine, you know, then you've got it. I think people just cryptify Seiðr too much, to a point where I'm like, no. Just like, let's just talk cultural context, you know. So you stand out in the woods and you connect with nature and you listen to the birds. Okay, good. Step one, you make tea. Good. Okay. You pray, you meditate, talk to nature. Do you sing with nature? Okay, we're already there now, you know.
Mm.
So I've had people from the States come and visit me that were learning a little bit about this, and they could definitely see what they have in their cultural context fit into it. But it was all very different than what they expected, like because it's been cryptified so much that they had gone too far away from just the nature of it.
Yeah, I kind of feel like for like outsiders, for people who didn't grow up in Iceland, I feel like it's very hard to kind of get a grips of what Seiðr is, because of course, like a lot of people go like directly into like historical sources, or they look for books or something, and then of course they want to get it right.
Mhm.
And then like in the end, if you read into it and more and more and more, and I know that from myself, then at some point you're just very confused about like what even is it, and then you probably just take it too far and you narrow it down too much, because like of course like if you look for historical sources, there aren't too many in English. Let's just say it in English.
Yeah, but definitely not too much. And it's like for us here, it's like we don't. It doesn't even feel right to write too much about it. I mean, like it doesn't like we don't just throw it out there. You know, we don't even know like who's the one going to be taking that from there. You know, so we find it more responsible just to have it something that we learn through other people around you. And if you have this calling, like you really do get put in the right place and time to be able to learn. But yeah, I think that the outside perspective just needs to be dismantled a lot, you know? And like what feels simple to me, it's a privilege of mine because I live with nature. So I'm like, don't you get it? You know, I'm like, well, no, how are you supposed to get it if you're living in this fast-tracked world or this suburb of America and this is the only thing you have? You know, like I really just like I really want to try to communicate, but I've had to do a lot of dismantling and building up just to find a way to talk about it, because there's like no, like I don't get a manual, and it's nobody's like spoon feeding everything to you. It's kind of like you just walk with it and you learn along the way, and you listen and work with and walk with elders, and you just start learning on your way. And maybe, just trying to find ways to find the common ground in cultural context, just to see like, yeah, you are already there. You just kind of like have to awaken into that you're already there, but also just like what does fit into people's cultures and where they are. Like for us, we don't. So if you're living like far away from the north, far from away from Iceland, like there's no use to going after our formula of calling our land whites,
Yeah.
Like you really just have to see like what do you see where you are, and what does the nature say to where you are, and what is the situations in your community relevant to you, and that kind of like becomes their Seiðr. And like we will also just use this term as we see it. We'll look at somebody doing conjuring in another tradition and we're like, oh yeah, they're doing a Seiðr in their tradition. So it's just a term, and all the workings inside of that. So you can make it relative to where you are, or you can seek out the natures of the north and keep walking and see how it goes. But my whole key in this is just like, it's not that cryptic.
Yeah.
And it's not like something that was like so like done pre-Christian and then ended. Like definitely not. Like we have conjuring traditions all over the world. The spell and communication with nature and community, it's all happening. It's just find your terms and connections to it. It's always it is ongoing. And there's nothing that we want to do with doing things like we did in Viking Age. Like we are so far removed from that, because a lot of people will project like Viking Age images to Seiðr and being a Völva, Seiðr carrier. And that is just kind of like, it's taken me forever to just go like, what are you guys getting on about? Like, we do not fetishize this part of ourselves or our history that is just where it was. We just moved along. Yes, we became a Christian nation that was allowed to still practice our heathendom. Did we meld together? Did we evolve? Yes, we do. But Seiðr is always going to be Seiðr. We don't skip knowing how to conjure, or like skip knowing how it is to commune with nature or talk to the ravens. And that is all very continuous and I would say very relevant to now. Like, we don't have to do things the same, but there are elements that will pop up once in a while that are very old.
But this is interesting now, because that was also a question that popped up, because of course, as like an outsider, a lot of people try to kind of reproduce the way that it would have been done in the Viking Age. So do you actually ever pull like any info from, like, let's say, I don't know, the sagas, for example, or do you practice more intuitively or from what you have learned from elders or from the spirits?
Yeah, like the sagas is just like entertainment, you know, and that never even like thought of pulling it from there. It's like it's our family histories, so it's good. It's exaggerated, wonderful, as you should, you know. Like we have to be bigger in our small island, and they will pop up things like a Völva or somebody pulling a Seiðr there, and like, and it would not be like, yeah, I gotta do that, and I gotta figure out how to do that. It's just like, yeah, he did that. Like, he swung a skin over his head and created a fog. Yes, of course he did. You know, like my uncle did that too. You know, it's not like it's in who's recent. So I'm not going like back to Svanir and Yalsa. I gotta figure out how he did that. Like, no, you already have somebody that's closer to you that also has that. And then I might ask, like, so how? And it's like, oh, just talk to the weather gods. They'll work it out with you. You have it in you. You just have to awaken it. What do you remember? And they will do a lot of questioning. My elders would do a lot of questioning. So what do you remember? What do you remember? You know? And then they'll go like, are you sure? And then I'm like, always learning about alignment. Alignment is always matters, you know? And they really do just pull out of your genetic memory or what your spirit memory is, you know? So that's the guidance that you do get. But nobody is ever going like, so step 1, Hogwarts, you know, like, here's a mandrake, you know, it's not like that. Like, I have a grandmother that was really into the herbs, and I liked hanging out with her, and I liked hearing what she had to say about that, you know. I had a grandfather that would teach me the runes and how to do them and work with it in his way. It resonated with me, so we went along with that, you know. So it's like, yeah. And then the whole Seiðr thing and all that was definitely just a family practice. And then practicing, going into the Seiðr ceremony, the old sitting one, you know, that people really, really fail attempts at in the world. Yeah, it started out like watching somebody else and then just being an observer and then feeling like, okay, I'm going to be pulled into this. And then through years and years and years of meeting every Tuesday at 8 o'clock, practicing it until it became safe, and I could step into it, you know. But it wasn't because I had to. It was not like I really wanted to spend my Tuesdays that way. It was just like, if I don't do that, I'm gonna have nightmares or something. You know, like a bad feelings. Oh, and also another very important part in our culture is that we are a dream culture. So that is a daily thing. And like having, we say dreaming, like it's like saying naked dreams. You're awake when you're dreaming, you know? So it's very common. You wake up and you're like talking about your dreams in the morning. You'll talk about your dreams out at the shop, gas station, you know? Like everybody's talking about their dreams. So that is a part of the tradition. And it really does help you mind map how you have prophecy even, or guidance in life. And like literally, like this could be a person you barely have any respect for. It could be somebody that's like conservative, tight and stick in the blood kind of a type of person, but they'll go like, and I have a dream, and we're like, what did you dream? You know, tell me. Like it could be like the most unleashed person. If it dreams, we're all gonna listen, you know. So yeah, we're big on that. I think that is also central to my practice.
I love that. Nobody here talks about their dreams. That's kind of boring.
It's like, yeah, kind of like seep that in, you know, because dreams are so important, you know. And I always suggest to people, you know, like when they're starting to get into dreams, like if you can discipline yourself to have a day journal and a morning journal, you know, like journal your day at night and then journal your dreams in the morning. just give it a time. You'll start seeing like this, how it's all melding together and how it works out, you know, how it's speaking to you.
I'm so not talented with that. I tried. I really tried, but like, I even just have to put in so much work to even just remember my dreams. Like if I put in no work and I don't do any magic about it, I will not remember any dreams. Like the last dream I remember was probably 2 months ago.
Yeah. I really beg for breaks. I really do. Like sometimes I'm like, I'm not sleeping, you know, it's like, I can't sleep.
Let me rest.
Yeah, let me sleep, you know. And like when I have gone through periods where I'm like, okay, I really need to understand what dream is mapping for me, then I will at least draw something. I'll just go like this color, this feeling, this person said this, like it's very, very short. Pick up like a phone, just go on voice messenger. I even got like videos going, just like blah 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 blah. I just gotta let this out. And my favorite from myself is like when I draw it, and then I just put it in a folder and leave it alone. Then I'll go like, wait a minute, I drew this thing, and I can pick it up, and be like, look, I'm psychic. Like, and I got proof. You know, I don't need to do that, but I love that. I love the dreams that I dream, that I draw is my favorite. But
very smart though to draw them, because I feel like sometimes, or to me at least, sometimes it feels like you can get a feeling across better with a drawing than with words. Maybe that's just because I'm more of a visual person than a word person, but.
Definitely. Just like have all that, just an image, you know, like I've really fallen into doing great images, but just some kind of imagery, and then it will help recall what you dreamt. And it's just a really, really good way to just support life, you know. I really think so, you know. But it's like, it's at this point here in Iceland, it's like we will definitely, like, it will have an influence on your actions. Like it really does have influence on your days after that. And like even the people that just like really, they don't, not into the spirituality, they really don't want to be there, but you have a dream or something, they'll be like, okay, tell me, you know. Or they will go like, I have to tell you this, you know. And they're going like, and now I'm done, leave it alone now, you know.
Yeah, it's just a cultural thing. A lot of people don't even realize anymore what they're doing if they're doing it. Like for example, here in Germany, I think it's a very widespread thing, but like if you tell something about something positive that's happening, that you knock 3 times. And I mean, of course, that comes from the whole like averting the evil eye thing, but people just do it, and literally everyone does it. But people don't know why they do it anymore, but they still do. Even people who think that spirituality is ridiculous, even they do it.
And I love that because it's like this theme of just in case, you know. I love little superstition like that. And you know, it's like in studies here in Iceland, like people will sometimes say like, are you guys still believe in them elves? And some people will be like, don't want to talk about it because they don't want it to be made fun of. And or you know, or it's very private. Like take your time to talk about it, but we are still very, very suspicious. And there'll be a lot of people who say like, I'm not that spiritual, but I believe in elves just in case. And then like for me, because I'm raised heathen, I'll be like, and I'm going to church just in case, you know, like yeah. So we're always doing this just in case kind of a thing, you know. I'm very involved with church in Iceland right now, and it's a great journey. Like it really reminds me of like what is in our cultural hearts, that I am so well received just as I am, you know, and I can simultaneously just go to mass and then talk to the priest about my elf situation or something like that, and they're totally like, it's serious, taken very serious.
That's church, beautiful.
Yeah, elf church mission got a lot of support from priests.
Oh, that's amazing.
And they're the ones that are documenting us the most, because they meet a lot of people, and some priests are the best historians in Iceland, you know, because they will pick up on all the stories and they will write it. So I'm really into reading books from priests that are documenting, and we work together also. Like they will deal with things like if there's bad energy, or like they need to build something near a Völva grave or an elf grave, sometimes a priest will get involved, and sometimes a priest will get me involved, or vice versa. So I'm probably the first Völva in history in Iceland that is openly a Völva that's in the church council.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's so cool though, because I feel like that's like a thing in the broader pagan community where there's so much hatred for Christians and for Christianity, which I mean, okay, you can hate the church, do that. Of course, the church has done horrible things, but like, why all of this bashing for Christianity or like Christians in general? Not every Christian is a horrible person, and I feel like there's so much potential if people just start hating at each other, just stop hating at each other.
Yeah, I mean, just like there could be bad heathens and be bad Christians or whatever, like I'm not religious in that per se. I'm a child of nature. I go beyond religion and faces, and whatever humans need to do. I definitely like to go beyond that. So I really just, I'm in a small village. There's a church here, and then the people from the graveyard start talking to me at night, and they're telling me, come check out this church, and we're chilling together. Then it became, it could have been any religion, really. Like, it's a house of spirit in my village, and I have my own like temple situation here, and it's a very smooth exchange. I do maybe ceremony here on a Saturday, and it can go very bloody heathen, and then on a Sunday I'm in mass, and do I resonate with everything that's being said in mass? There's some things I will not pray and I won't say, but that is just kind of like, that's a little too far, that's more it's like just me saying this is blasphemy for everybody in this house right now, but I can say Our Father and Hail Marys, and it's not, I didn't really like, I've never been baptized or anything like that, but I really just felt like Spirit calling me to just kind of like step into this. I've had callings, very beautiful interactions with Jesus and Mary, and I did not ask for it. I was like, you talking to me? Like, really? Like, I'm the guy, and Jesus like, yeah, you can understand what I'm saying here. And I'm like, cool. Okay, we're a lot more alike than I thought, dude, and I'm very much advocating for the true message that he gives me, and which the church here really does understand. Historically, it was very important for me to also just preach this, like there was like some kind of like stiffness, and then we just preached it. So I'm in the church now. I'm born and raised heathen. To be in the church council, I had to switch myself into a Christian religion. And I'm still kind of like, what? My grandmother literally chokes every time she gets reminded of this. She's just like, how are they doing? Everybody thinks it's funny. But yeah, I'm there for a reason. But I told them that I can be there for maybe 2 years max. Otherwise, I need to go back home. It's like I can't die a Christian. I'm sorry. I have big plans for my death, and like when it comes to it, and I cannot be this way. I need to be where I belong,
Yeah, understand.
And for tradition also, because one day I'll be the grave that people will visit. I hope so.
That's a nice thought. Like at some point, future Völvur will go to your grave and ask you for knowledge and for wisdom.
Yeah, and I love oversharing, so I'll probably be grateful for that, So I had my own mound when to visit when I was little. That I didn't even know it was that until a little bit later,
Oh wow.
Yeah, and so I was like, oh, so I didn't skip that part historically either, I was like, wonderful. And so I have a very, very solid plan of like how I'm supposed to be buried and where and things like that. And it just, I would prefer it. If it doesn't happen, that's fine. But I don't think the churchyard really can host what I need.
There'll just be a churchyard with like one burial mound.
And then I'm sure this village would do it for me. I'm sure they would,
Oh, that would be cute though.
That would be cute. They would do it. They would do it for me. So Yeah, it is fun. So I'm in the choir and I'm in the council, and it's just weird. I've been meeting up with the Bishop of Iceland and things like that, and we're just so tight and good. I'm like, so we did that. Okay, cool. That's historical, and I'm happy for this. That if it ripples out to the world, that we are safer than we think, then that is good. But I definitely had my experience living in America at a time how much fear it is with this sort of practice, that you could actually just still can be in danger, and when if you're raised in like the Bible Belt in America, for instance, for some people, not everybody, I'm sure that, and it is just like all these rights and wrongs and suppression, that I'm definitely can understand somebody will go through a period of being extremely angry and hurt by it. We're just further along in the process here, and then because we also didn't get Christianized with violence, like we made a deal. It was a bode, a heathen, that made the choice that we would share traditions here, and while we were Catholic, we really they had all tolerance for heathendom, and we're like, so we're just adding on to our seats now, so we got Jesus and the devil now too. Okay. So the devil's kind of like Loki, so he's a cool guy. Okay, cool's a cool guy. Like we didn't even get we don't even have that evil concept still,
Yeah.
It became a sport to conquer and control the devil rather than fear it. And so, and it wasn't until we became Lutheran that it became like more judgy. But then, like I said, we can't fight this nature of having to be all into this witchery and stuff.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Okay, I have one question that is probably very quick to answer, because you could literally answer it with one word. Do you work with the Völva staff?
Yes.
Is that so? That is actually a thing.
Yeah. And but I've had people here that just work with their canes, they just have a thing, other objects with them. But yeah, the staff is for me a very much of a thing, and it was found by my mother under a mountain up in the highlands, where we would do our sittings and gather bones and such. And it was not, I didn't know it was supposed to be mine, but I was just doing a Seiðr and she handed it to me, and then I was like, yeah, this is a good plug, and it became also like a trigger for certain spirits to come through. And all the clothes I wear and everything like that, it's not about the aesthetics. It's really chosen by the spirits, and when you put them on, it's kind of like helps ignite me and everything around me. We're on now, and then I have to dismantle it all afterwards and just go into normal clothes and switch back into just being myself. And the staff is something very, very key to me, but I can work without it, but I prefer with it. And I have wood one and I have an iron one. And the iron one I usually am not holding onto in trance. It's usually I plant it into the ground outside, and it becomes like an antenna of some sorts.
I love that image.
Yeah, it really is. It's just like, oh, plug in, and it really does affect the field around you. You can definitely it's like going into a space. It's like woo, and then you walk out and it's clear. So it really does make a difference like that. And yeah, it's
I love that. I kind of like I put it into the ground. Okay, here, let's go.
Yeah, we have I have a lot of things that I stab into the ground.
I love stabbing things into the ground.
I love stabbing things. Yeah, but the staff is good. The staff is very good, and I do, and of course the Völva and Völur is very connected, and I definitely like just working with it, I can definitely see why it was like this. And here in Iceland, it's probably more common that we had wood staffs than we're not digging in the graves here. We have about 60 something known graves here. We're not digging them up because it's too superstitious about it. So we really don't know if they have them short iron staffs that we've seen around, But from what I do know is that I've seen the wooden ones. Yeah. So, yeah, maybe we just didn't have as many resources here to get fancy things. But I was gifted a fancy one, so I just
cool.
It didn't come in place with the older one, the wooden one. So And like, it is also very good. I just want to say this is that, yeah, the Völva does carry a staff and it's recognized to be so, but I recommend it just for people that are plugging themselves into nature in general. Like, we can see it as a branch of Yggdrasil, and we can see as all as seeds of Yggdrasil, and just kind of like standing there and plugging in and just feeling the electric magnetic field of Earth kind of comes through when what's coming down, and then you're just kind of like in the middle, you know. It's just like hugging a tree, big hugger, you know. So it's just like you just have your personal relation here, and it really it becomes a very beautiful, sentimental thing. And like some people in the mainland talk about marrying their staffs. I'm like, sure, okay, but like it's we have a more of a natural connection to that. We don't need to do certain ceremony around it. It was just found and it becomes, you know. So yeah, but there's a lot more to be said about it. It's a more than a yes or no question to me, because there's so many interesting branches to go from. You have a staff?
There's always more to say.
You have a staff?
I don't have one yet. I would love to have one, but I kind of want to find one. Like I also have a wand like that I got back in the days when I still identified as a Wiccan, because like that's the first thing that I found basically, which I don't really use anymore. But like that one I also just found. It was just like I just went on a walk in a forest and I was like, okay, I don't know why, but that stick there, that calls to me. So that is the one I will take. And I would love to have that just happen. So I don't really want to like buy one for me. Like I have seen, for example, beautiful cast iron staffs online, but I'm like, it kind of feels wrong to just buy it. So I don't know. At some point, I hope I will just go to a forest and I will see a big, beautiful stick that calls out to me that wants to be taken home.
Yeah, definitely. Like, just put it out in the cosmos. And it's like mine is very swervy, but it has a perfect lean for me, you know. So it's like I have a straight one that's kept in another country for me, but because I would never take my personal one on travels. But also just like how like yeah, but so it's like it could be, I mean, like, you just keep your eyes on it, because it could be like a total crooked one or not a straight one. It's like it can have any kind of thing. And then just like sometimes when I have traveled, I've just taken little branches from Iceland, you know, just little things just to hold on to. But it's part of the tapping, part of the conjuring. Really, the staff does come into it. We would say it is like it does pick up on a lot of energy, gives a lot of energy. It becomes actually part of the conjuring, because we do, like, it's not that I'm willingly tapping my staff, but when spirit starts coming through, they really just go, you know. You definitely know, like, when some of them are in, when you got like this very steady beat going like this, you become like unhuman how you can keep it. And it does really infect the surroundings around you. Like, I wouldn't know what to do with one of those little cast iron ones. I would just be like, okay,
I have this now.
I have this now. And I definitely feel the spinning in it. Really nice. If somebody would gift me one, I'll probably be like, okay. But then I just have like this spinner, like a spindle, that for me, it kind of just has the same kind of energy in it, you know?
Yeah.
And I definitely go into trance with it and take on a flight with it. But like, you know, just however it comes to you. And not every Völva or practitioner, just definitely please don't try to look the same, because everybody then we're maybe missing out on this very specific properties that this person has. And like I needed guidance from my elders when I started getting visits from Christian things, and I'm like kind of going like, oh, what, you know, like I don't belong there, I don't, you know. But then they were like, but this is your authentic thing, please just roll with it and keep on listening. This is how it, and I've now realized why, you know. Now I definitely do, and now that is an element with me. I call on the gods, and then I call in Mary and sometimes Jesus too. And I'm like, okay, we're doing that now. It brings there's some edge in that. And folk tradition really is my gig, you know. So
I love to see how many people nowadays want to reconnect with some kind of folk tradition of their ancestors. Especially, I feel like people in the US seem to get more and more enthusiastic of that, like to actually reconnect with the practices of their ancestors. And I think that's so cool. That's also even in Germany, I can see that, because like previously, let's say like, I don't know, 10 years ago or something, it kind of seemed like everyone was looking for something spiritual outside, like somewhere else. I don't know if it's, I don't know, in Buddhism or in something else.
yeah.
Practices from other cultures always seem to be more interesting for some reason, but I feel like that's slowly, we're slowly moving away from that, and I feel like that's beautiful.
Oh yeah, definitely. And Icelanders did that too, you know, like we had Buddhist trend going on and stuff like that. It really just, it is an adventure, and it really just go see the world and come back with it. It's like our way of spiritual Viking, you know, we're going out seeing the world. Okay, religion takes stuff that I don't know, but we do have some appropriation in our culture, and definitely in Gallup too, you know, appreciation, borrowing ideas, you know, inspiration, let's call it that. It's not appropriation.
Yeah.
And what I'm a big fan of is like my biological father is half American, identifies very much American, and my roots there are Appalachian. And then I had this whole influence of Hoodoo, Native American things, Christian things, even some Scandinavian things like granny magic and stuff like that. It's just like, I really love that folk tradition that happened there in the Appalachians with all these meldings of cultures. Like, that is something that's closer to home there for Americans, maybe something they can relate to. In the South, we have great conjuring traditions in Hoodoo, and also just melding together, like no Christian shame, but like kind of like work with it. Like that works with you, okay, and then you can take this nature spirit into it like that. Like Mary can just be like the world mother, you know?
Yeah.
Jesus can represent something else, you know? So kind of like work with it instead of like kind of like, you know, repulsive it. Because like that kind of energy also kind of like, yeah, I don't like that. It does feel a little bit adolescent, you know? It's like when you grow out of the blame and being the victim of it, which I do understand, because it can be very abusive and violent being in a strict religious home. But when we kind of like mature out of it and we can hold our own, you know, you can find your own way. And I think, but couldn't we say that like almost every country has like their special folk tradition in certain ways? I don't know of a single country that doesn't have an element of something, you know? Like, I go to countries that are like, yeah, there's nothing going on here. Like, okay, there's a tarot reader around you. Like, yeah. Do you know somebody that checked out like coffee cups? All right, okay, then we got something. Let's open that door. You know, like have it. You know.
I mean, for a long time, I thought Germany didn't have anything, because like nowadays, like I would say probably 70 to 80% are either atheists or agnostic. But there's still so much here. I mean, even just the thing I realized recently was like how I was raised with, like, if you had a ward, that like people would just talk. You would have a person that talks to the wards, and it would go away. And I mean, even like simple things like that, it's still a thing. Even doctors have started doing that now. So
I learned that recently. Like, I was talking to a doctor because my kid had a wart, and they were like, visualize, like draw a picture and visualize it being burned. I'm like, what? You're doing that thing. Like, doctors have always been very cool about healers here too. Like, we work together really well. But when they went that point, I was like, now we're going next level. Now you're like, you guys are really doing magic now. This is witchcraft, you guys.
Yeah.
And like when I think about Germany, I'm like, I get a very fulfilled heart of the woods. You know, I haven't been further than Berlin really, but when there's something I tune into there, I tune into it, like the bear, the woods, high trees, mushrooms. I see the nervous system of a forest, and I'm like, and that's so old. Like, if anybody that can just meditate and kind of like wash off, and then just get into like that with the essence there, like, oof, it is powerful, you know. And unfortunately, because I'm this guy, people talk to me about this stuff, either music or this kind of stuff. So I'm always meeting people from around the world through the internet or through travels that are just really just doing their thing, you know? So I just wish that everybody would know that what I know, that, you know, see what I see. And it's like, we don't have to do everything like the past. It's just the basic thing, just recognize that you're part of nature. And we live in many worlds. All right. So then after that, let's learn to navigate it, listen to it, be with it, make it good for you, for yourself, family, community. It's going to be fine. Earth is just calling 100% on this number 1, 2, 3. Just remember that you're part of me, you know, and she's magical, you know.
I feel like something that is kind of missing a lot of the times is just the listening part. I feel like a lot of people like to listen to other people as sources.
Yeah.
But like spirits themselves and nature itself can be such an important teacher.
Yeah, it's like really the humans have always just navigated me towards that listening, and it's about interpreting. So it's like, so yeah, are we interpreting messages, omens and things like that? So that is where we learn this human communication, because you have to deliver it somehow. It's not like I could absorb and use no words to understand, you know, but then we start figuring out a way to manifest it and talk about it. And like, I think if we would just drop the woo-hoo and everything like that, and just like, okay, there is not a magical practice here without nature itself. So get to know it, you know.
Yeah.
Things unfold from there, you know, and definitely just like the more you get there, the more you start learning about your own capabilities of being more than a third dimensional 9-to-5 person, which we're not. And it feels like slavery, really, you know. So 9-to-5s are important too, we understand, but it can't be your whole purpose, you know.
Yeah, definitely not.
No, and that is the problem, really. Like, I see people so connected and everything like that, but it's just like the brains have dismissed it, you know. And what Iceland can offer often is people can defragment these things and understand that this can be a way of being, you know. Even if I was working a 9-to-5, I still carried this with me. I could take a lunch break and look at that grass breaking through the concrete and be like, oh my God, you're so awesome, you know. I'm talking to you, grass, right now, you know. Like the moon, the stars, everything, it's always there, you know.
Yeah, there's even nature around you if you live in a big city.
Definitely.
I live in a very big city, and it can be extremely hectic, and it can sometimes seem like you're cut off from nature, but you are not.
No, it's just like you just made a really big tribe like in the concrete jungle, and it's just like a little scab on Mother Earth. So you can anytime go, it's gone. So it's very much of an illusion of distance when you literally built on Earth itself.
Yeah.
The birds are still making it, you know, the moon is still turning, everything. And when I was living in Reykjavik, which is pretty much a village compared to most big cities, we had this little group called like Náttúrubörn borgarinnar, which means like the children of nature. So Náttúrubörn is child of nature of the city. So it's like, so we would just post pictures like, oh, I was in the statue garden today. That was so beautiful. Look at the rowan berries. Awesome. You know, who wants to walk to the ocean that's just down the street? Okay, let's do that. You know, it's like, always remember that we're still like, we're not distant from it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think we're at this point of no return. I think people are just returning more and more and more into nature. And I'm not saying dismiss society or dismiss any of that. I'm not trying to, I don't put any shame on like wherever we are as humanity. It's just that unhealthy disconnect in the mind. And then when we connect again, then we make better choices for ourselves and our community. And we are violently getting there.
Yeah, it's even, I mean, of course, I can only talk from a German perspective, but here, especially through COVID, now people are more and more moving out of the cities and into more of, I mean, we don't really have that much really wild nature anymore, but people are at least trying to move to a more rural place than the big cities. And previously, of course, everyone always wanted to go to the cities, and now it's kind of seems like it's reverting a little bit. So that gives me hope.
I'm seeing that everywhere, and I'm just that step being made. I moved out of Reykjavik during at COVID time when it was kicking in, and it was always a plan, but it was kind of like there was a migration to different villages during that time. It's like, I don't know. I don't think that we all came out great through it, through that time. There's this there's a lot of trauma we got to work through. Bright side is a lot of people did the work inside, and a lot of people just made choices like, I need to get out of here.
Yeah.
Which is also just great. Whatever people need to do, But that was a really good sign, actually. Like, this village is tiny, but we got extra population through that. And so we're getting there. I think so, I really, really do. If it's not, it doesn't have to happen in this generation. I can see it in generations ahead, and just think long term like that. That's how I think. I just think generations ahead. Like, when we reach this point of collective decision, like, this is wrong, we don't do that, it will seep out into like the norm. We just don't do that collectively,
Yeah.
And we are reaching it to this point, just if we just observe it,
Yeah. Slowly but surely.
I mean, we have to have hope. I'm just like, why else? I don't believe that children are being born by accident or anything. I think everything is on purpose. And intentional. And I definitely see it down the line, like, when my children ask me, like, seriously, Mom, the Völva, tell me, like, how is it? How's it going to go? And I'm like, I wouldn't be wasting my breath if it was going to be end of the road. We wouldn't be born here if it wasn't on the road. And I do see a future for us. And I do see these things develop. And I was like, give it a year or two. More people will see what I see, I think.
Yeah, I agree. All right. I actually only have 2 questions left. One is pretty similar to the last question that I asked, but like not about something physical, but more something you do maybe, or you don't. And that is something that I'm also very interested in. Do you incorporate singing or like some kind of song or chanting or something into your workings?
Yeah. And it's like when we are conjuring, like the spirit itself will start seeing through and breach through with sound. So the sound is like the ride and to navigate energies. And it's also just how they breach through is through sound. And it just changes everything around. And it definitely, like, I feel like it's a beautiful offering is to sing. Like, don't always have to have things, you just offer your voice. And it's also a great way to process the feelings, work through energy that come at you. It's like, sometimes will come out of me energy and I'll just be like, like I'll sound it back, and I'll like something come here and I'll sound it back here so I can observe it and see if we're going to meld with it. And just, I'm surrounded by ravens. So there's a lot of singing between us too. And the wind, like children in Iceland, we grow up yelling at the wind, like if you're going to make it to school, you just start wailing at the wind. All the way to school. Very interesting that we have a famous singer called Björk, who I thought was so fun when she said in an interview that she did that. That was how kind of her voice breached. And I'm like, she's a total sorceress, herself. And I was like, yeah, we all do it, really, don't we? Yeah, but singing is part of it, and I do not work specifically with lyrics, except in offering songs. I might go like, I'll offer this song. It's my favorite from when I was little or something like that. But otherwise, it's going to be gala. It's going to be sounding. Gala is the gala. It's not chanting. It's more noisy. We're not as melodic here in Iceland as like the Kölning in Sweden and Norway, where they're in the high mountains.
Yeah.
And they do this echo in the high pitch. now we're in Iceland and we just get met with a wind, so it's just kind of like, oh.
The wind is like, nice try.
Yeah, it's like mute. I think it's a lot more of a chesty kind of like, sound from us here. Unless we get lucky meeting a valley that will sing with us. So yeah, it definitely is. It definitely is, and it's a beautiful path, and it's a great path to work with. My mother's voice broke, like after surgery, but now it's just being like transformed into throat singing now, and it's like, and it's really, yeah. So like there's just listening to her develop, like losing her chanting voice that we would use in ceremony and in conjuring, and then just having to find it again. It's just becoming a different level, next level,
I love that. To me personally, singing and chanting is it has become very, very important, because when I first started out, I basically did everything completely mute because I felt stupid doing it. I feel like that's a cultural thing, because, for example, in Germany, nobody just randomly starts singing. I don't know, people are very self-conscious about that. I don't really know why. But people don't usually do that. It kind of feels like a very vulnerable thing. But it has become so important for me, and I feel like it's so underrated.
Oh, wow. And like, well, good. You keep it up, and you are influencing then other people to be okay with it too, And it's like, when you're singing, you're moving these vibrations in your chest, and it can really just soften everything up, and then it can have an influence on your brain waves too. So it can really put you into this melded state of being with what you're doing, and in unison with the energies around you, And it's also a way to realize if it's something that's not good, because it'll get kind of like, or insecurities or weirdness. Okay, then we got something that we got to work through. So vibrations it's the vibrations you can create is so good for the body and for the focus and direction of things. And really, like, part of our gig here in Iceland is in my family is we can learn foundations of a lot of things, but then eventually you have to be in this position where you're just solid enough to receive and let, like, things that you don't have to understand. That is a great thing. Like, if you're responsible enough to do things you don't really know is, you're doing great, So it's like a song might come to you, don't get in your way, be like, where's this coming from? Does it sound good? Or da-da-da-da-da. Just like, no, this is from spirit, just do it. It's from your spirit, it's from that spirit. Whole thing.
I had that happen when I got a drum. And I just started playing the drum, and I wanted to kind of to connect with the drum, and the song came to me, and that was so insanely beautiful.
Yeah.
And I mean, I have a very bad memory, but I will never forget that. It was only like a tiny little bit, but like I will never forget that.
Yeah. No, that is great. That's like, a drum is really great for reaching those things, because it does have the vibrations. Help people bring their voice out. And like, not a lot of drums survived in Iceland. Like, I'm sure the drums came with the Sami, and they're also part of our ancestry here. But we used a lot of sound, and just like the poetry that we use is like, it'll have a formula of sound in it. Like in Völvas, a lot of people realize that some of the verses we're mimicking nature itself. We're mimicking the roar of Fenrir wolf, or we're mimicking the sound of the ocean, like Sandnes Seiðr, it's like come like And so sounding is something that really held up here, and then just using your hands and the staff, these things. When the energy is built up, then you'll eventually just like,
Yeah.
And then when you're there and you're totally just like abandoned, and you're just doing this, like you have this sense of abandonment, you're just like out of your mind, and you're just doing this, and you kind of like let this movement and this turning come to you. This is where Odin comes into this thing. He's a master at like this turning and wildness in it, but it's held. So it's like, it just happens. And it's a great place to be. Just be good at coming back home after that, because I mean, like, going into spirit where you can get spirit hungover,
Oh yes.
Yeah. So yeah, So please, 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 people, just preach your voices, and it has to be done in a way like there's when singing together, there are people that will also just go and make like a big like wah, wah, like no, don't do that. We don't want to break the energy. We just kind of like want to just flow, let it swerve. Sometimes we'll go whoop, let it go a little bit. But I've met a lot of people that get a little too crazy in singing, they start screaming a lot, and I'm like kind of like, no, now the spirits are out. Now they're just going to take a back seat while you do that, And also with the drum, if people are just kind of like banging it, I'm like, what are you doing? Like, need to organize a bit. You gotta organize your drum, organize the sound, organize what's coming through.
It has to flow together.
It needs to come together, and like the drum, it's like you're just talking to a spirit in different ways. It's not just the center of the drum like this,
Yeah.
But it can be with preaching, but then the more you get to know it, the more you're going to be navigating more and more and more and communicating through it, through the tapping, through the sounding. So it becomes like this echo transmission, echo sounding with spirit.
Yeah.
I really love it. I use drums and I use rattles and I use the staff and I use my voice and rocks and just, I guess I'm really into the music part of this.
Me too. I mean, I totally get it.
Yeah, it's powerful.
Okay, I think I only have like one main question left. I think we tapped on it a little bit already, but of course, there are nowadays, as there are like a lot of new heathens, there are also a lot of people who would like to get into Seiðr and would like to try to connect with it and get into the practice of it. What would you recommend to someone? Because of course, if someone, for example, lives in Germany or lives in the US or something and wants to try it and wants to get into that, what would you recommend to them?
Well, no shortcuts in this, like I wish I could, but we're dealing with complications of cultural context and things like that, and like what is realistically going to help you, and so what we do have in source material, like we have the epic poetry and we have literally the prophecy of the Völva. And so no shortcut. I was reading this over and over and over again. It was a practice of reading it all together too and singing it together. And because it's a very beloved poem, it's not like they're trying to indoctrinate anything in me, but it's because we're really into this, and singing poetry and things like that. The more often we would do it, and it will sit with us, and maybe sitting with a verse, you just sit with it and it starts unlocking things within you. We didn't have no other book source other than that. And then just really just the Völuspá, really, it has all the information in it. Like, what is she doing? She's sitting there. The gods are coming to her as an oracle. She's remembering. She's not seeing. She remembers. She remembers the future, past, present. The whole exchange of gifts for the information that's there. Like, all this information is just right there. All the books that are coming after that are people just trying to dismantle that and taking some guesses, I guess. So it's the essence of the Norse Seiðr that we got here in the north. You'll tap into it through that. And maybe there are some books out there that can help people reach that again, help guide them to that. But I don't know them books. And we have talked about, what do we have then? And it's just like looking at your surroundings, the folk traditions and the nature around you. Build relationship, like making a friend. Exchange gifts with nature. Nature will teach you, That is my source. It's nature itself. It told me things that no human can, And also meditation in any way that is accessible to the person, whether it's working with the mantras or something from the traditions, or just using your breath or counting or listening. Mindfulness is very, very important, because that's another place to go. And I don't know, what does the world really want? like we're not allowed to make a manual. We point to the epic poetry again and again, and we point out that we have to be children of nature first and foremost. And what people usually have in their surroundings and in folk tradition around them is pretty much what we're doing, just what fits to where they are.
Yeah.
And if you meld things together and you are conjuring and you are in this certain kind of alignment with yourself, and then practices that can be any kind of witchery like that, you're already going to be recognized. We're going to see you as doing Seiðr,
I love that, because that just gives like a whole other meaning to it. Like if you usually see sources on Seiðr, it's always like this is what was done in the Viking Age, and it feels like you have to reconstruct something, but you don't have to reconstruct it because it's already there. You don't just have to connect to it.
Yeah, I mean, we're just dealing with different issues right now. But definitely, like sometimes you do want to become invisible, for maybe you're in public and you just need to make yourself disappear.
Mm-hmm.
There are actually breathing exercises that we do to do that, and there are visualizations how we do that to like hide ourselves. And how do we learn that? Is actually through meditation. And I'm using this word meditation, so we just not without putting any label of where that is coming from. Let's say the basic practice of it. We learn it through that. And it is kind of like slowing your breath, closing your presence, and finding a way to just. And that's something that people have been doing throughout the ages.
Mm.
We can guess that guy in the saga was probably doing the same thing as I was doing now. That's what worked. Like if I was getting an intruder in my house, was my first reaction going to be like skin over my head to make them disappear? Like we got guns now in this world, it's like so we have different ways of going at it, but it's make it relevant now. Only thing I don't take seriously is when somebody is like, yes, of course, people dress up in the old clothes. I have old settlement clothing, and I love them. I'm wearing a thing right now, but that's just because that's me, and it's nothing to do with me as a Seiðr person,
Mm.
And so it's just like, I think a lot of people just need to like kind of like just get back to basics on it. I don't take seriously when somebody's LARPing it. Like you can definitely tell when somebody's putting on the makeup and everything like that. I'm like, do that.
Mm.
But if you're saying that this is your gimmick and you're doing this, we can definitely tell that you're not doing things for the situation and the world today. Yeah. This is, people are still maybe in the costume play until they reach an authentic way of being, and also just like it doesn't make any sense for me that somebody across the world would like to do things like we do here in Iceland or in the north. It doesn't make any sense at all. But recognize that if you are doing things in your country in the same field as we are, we'll be like, and you're that Seiðr person in Australia because you're doing the conjuring and the spells and the community work and all that jazz, You don't have to use, I mean, like in Icelandic it's really hard. People are going to use our spells and stuff. Like, good luck with that. Not a single spirit's going to understand you. And it's really hard language, But what we like to do is just like what I repeat again. It's just let's go back to Earth. Let's go back to Earth magic and what she offers you. We can call her Freya. Let's go back to Freya, which is just Mother Earth in that way. And that's what she's trying to teach us. But we have to go back to her to hear that, to understand that. And I don't think there's a person out there that can guide you the same way as nature can. But have somebody to communicate with, of course. And just I would leave, like, if any course out there, like any internet thing out there is trying to say like, I'll teach you Seiðr so you become a Seiðr person, I'm like, it could be a stop on the way, I guess. But that's just not how we don't graduate. You know,
I'm
it's,
going to say the school now.
yeah, I go to Seiðr school and it's like, no, you don't graduate. It's like you can be on the path. Play, and I really like it though. When I don't see nothing wrong with people selling courses and like to educate, you know, but it can't be like you got a diploma in it and that's how you become something. Like, you know, just people just become themselves, and that is what Seidr means to us. It's like when you become yourself and you become this self that is part of everything, then if you link it together and if you find that you can intentionally have influence to a degree by showing up, that is good. But then also remember that the powers know better than you. So it's not going to be that relation. Is that helpful at all? Because it really doesn't have a simple answer.
I mean, to me, that is extremely helpful. Because for one, it shows people that like you don't have to read like 10 million books to like figure out what Seiðr is.
Okay.
Because like the thing that will help you most is to sit down and listen.
Yeah.
And I feel like that takes a lot of pressure out of it, and also it kind of shows that from an Icelandic perspective, Seiðr is not this one specific practice, like this manual of like you do this and this and this, and these three things are what Seiðr is, but it's more just a word for the practice, for a magical practice, and that can be different in a different culture.
Yeah. So it's not so specific that we have some kind of a secret key that we're gatekeeping. It's like, it's more like I probably had problems with answering just because I'm like, where are people coming from? You know, like with this, you know? No, we're not gatekeeping anything here. Like it's pretty much just realize that what lenses we're working at. That we're hugely influenced by our own nature here, just like people are going to be dealing with tornadoes in America or something like that. So that would be a priority to connect with them winds and weather and building up that communication. And then when you are there and you can pray on it and pray on your house being protected and your family being protected, you are in that essence already, you know.
Yeah.
And like just in many like traditions, old traditions around the world, we're all saying this, like, don't be like us, you know, like you have to be like you. And there's nothing wrong with, like, some people, like I hear this in America, people will be like, yeah, America sucks and I'm so ashamed of being American. I'm like, please don't do that. You're making zero help right now. Like there was a point that we were a new nation too, and we had to meld and grow and things like that, you know. So if I was living in America, I would be definitely talking to the elders of that land, and I would be melding with that nature there, and I would be singing my songs there and connecting that way. And my family here would be going like, oh, and they're doing Seiðr then, you know, like.
Yeah, I feel like, honestly, I feel like this was amazing advice.
Well, I do hope so. And it's like, and I say this, like, you know, more open than I have usually, because I've had a bit of distrust in people, because they will just roll with shit, you know, like, I'm like, no. It's like, don't, like, lean into this. But it's like, it's like this, I think more people are just ready to hear this, you know? And are becoming, you know, I'm meeting people that are becoming deeper listeners to really understand and get what I'm saying, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think we're ready for it. Because I think people are approaching it for the right reasons more than before.
Yeah, definitely. That's also that I would totally agree. Like I see that shift in the community.
Yeah, I definitely do, you know. And it's like I was on a Facebook group with a lot of practitioners of heathenry, and I asked, what is a Völva to you? And then they were like, oh shit, and there's an Icelander. And so I'm like, yeah, I got the VIP. We were the sagas, right? Yeah, we got the Ettas here. Like, I finally got a cool moment, you know, like, and I'm definitely going to soak up in that cool moment that I'm having, you know, like, but they start realizing, oh, we really don't know what it is. And like understanding what our perspective of trance is and what journeying is, and to understand, and they're like, okay, let's start over again. I'm like, yeah, cool. Let's just start over again. Let's build it up from here. So I just asked, what kind of witch are you? You know, it's like, what comes to you? Like, are you a good speaker? Are you an animal whisperer? Are you a hedge witch? What's this? You know, and then we just really grow on that. And I'm like, I'm here, and I recognize that. That's what we want to see. It's time, return of the witches. The world needs us today.
Yes.
Yeah, and the more people we can encourage, the better. You know, the ones that are responsible and direct us in a very good, healthy way for good reasons, for community, for our connection with Earth. I mean, like just when we come into just nature preserve itself, and what I'm recognized a lot for is that I work a lot with the spirits to conserve nature. You know, and when people realize there's spirit in these woods, it becomes more important. When it becomes a sacred place to people, then it becomes even more important. And then people might step up and go like, I have to fight for this, like I gotta fight for my own home.
Yeah.
You know, and the generations ahead will realize, oh, that person fought for that tree, you know, and whether it helps or not, you know, that just standing up for nature really does help, and our future depends on it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So the more we connect like that, the better, you know. So whether it be through Seiðr or anything that you want to call it in your community, just do it, because we're on the same boat and we're doing the same things for the same reasons.
Yeah.
And that are diabolical and doing bad stuff with these kinds of powers. We know that it becomes mute really fast. Because it usually hits them in the head, you know.
Oh, all right. I feel like this is kind of a great closing statement. And I don't want to hold you for longer. We've been talking for 2.5 hours, and I mean, I am so grateful, because I feel like all of this information was just amazing. Like I have learned myself so much, and I'm very, very grateful for that. So first of all, thank you so much. Like this was amazing.
You know, and I'm just like, I became like more and more relaxed because I was going through the whole wind situation. And then I just became so calm here. I'm in a good mood. I am fresh.
That's great.
Feeling cozy. And like and I really trust your platform and you know, like it was like an easy yes to come and say like, yeah, let's talk, you know, because I really just want to speak to these people. They're listening to you, you know. I'm in such full encouragement and support of it. And if there's anything that comes, I love clarity. You know, I could babble about something, and then I realized it opened up some new path of thinking. If it comes more questions after this, we can do a follow-up.
Of course. I would love that.
Like, just like, because I know like my ADHD is like off the rockets today. So I have other days where I'm like much more disciplined. But but it could have brought us to some other points, and I just kind of like tapped it and then scooted out again. And then also like I realized that something that's so basic to me, like, you know, how did you learn? I'm like, I just sat by a grave, you know, like I know people just need some time to, you know, like kind of like slow down to get to that point and going like, okay, I got it, you know. There's always more to clarify.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, like, to my viewers, like, if you have any further questions, of course, like, as always, put them down in the comments, because I'm always open to follow-up interviews, because this has been a blast, so I would totally be open to a second one.
It's fun, and just like for learning and clarity. And like I said, like I feel really bad that I can't like give people any kind of like certain manual or anything. Maybe my brain just doesn't got the magic words for that today, but maybe just continue talking, you know, and conversation. That would be really good.
Agreed. All right, then thank you again so much. I mean, of course, like, if you have anything else, any statement that would be important for you that you want to share, then feel free to like take the stage, or like, I don't know, if there's anything that you want to say, then totally feel free to do so.
No, I think I already like seeped it out here and there. When I feel something's important, I'm gonna say it no matter what the question is. So The whole thing about the connection and returning to nature is just like the most key thing right now. And I know it's not easy and it's not so simple, you know. I'm not a hippie like that, you know, like, and I definitely embrace like all the journey to it, you know, like we come to this earth, like totally forgetting how amazing we are, that we are these eternal spirits and everything like that. We definitely just to remember it again, you know. And through this communication and through building relation with nature and just having the space for yourself to just kind of like feel how expanded and beautiful we are, it really does carry out through daily life and how we react to the world. And one person matters, you know, every single person matters. And yeah, I'm just like really, really happy today to be on this journey with humanity. It's such an interesting time and it's going to be okay. But we have to make a collective choice to thrive together. And we have to, that means with nature too, you know. And all this Seiðr and all these things has the sole purpose of to grow, to support, to continue, you know. And if you have your heart aligned with that, there's a lot of teachers out there through, even we don't always have to look towards another Völva or an elder. It could be just a stranger on the bus, really, you know. So we have to be open for that. And yeah, so that's basically it. And yeah, my prayers really go out to the world today, you know. It really, really does. It's not easy. So moments like this is beautiful. We could just have a talk about something that we have in our hands.
That's true.
We do. And I had a dream of you like last week. I was looking at your earrings and like this one had fallen out. One of them had fallen out. And we were just going like, where did it go? Where did it go? And it's just funny. It's like, because in the screen, sometimes it disappears.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like, that's what I was seeing. we just met in spirit before we had this talk. So I already feel like we've had, I'm having a little bit of a deja vu. Which is good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Checkpoint. We're on the right path. We can say that.
All right. Then I guess I will leave you for today. Again, thank you so much to all of my viewers. As always, thank you so much for watching. I feel like this interview was I don't know, it feels like an especially important one. So if you have watched this far, then thank you so much. And with that being said, I will see you in another video. Bye bye.